if you couldn't code or you couldn't write, they're like, okay, you can be a salesperson because all you had to do is take somebody golfing and they'd give you a deal. That's not even close in 2025. In 2025, number one, you have to be an AI assisted salesperson.
Welcome to the 1% Edge podcast, where we dive into the journeys of extraordinary guests committed to getting 1% better every day. Today's hot topic, it's basically a 2025 sales survival guide. Don't get replaced by a toaster. How AI has completely changed the sales engagement game. And I'm really excited to have Dan Tyre, CEO and founder of Tyre Angel, an angel investment firm, here to speak with us. As a little side note on Dan, Dan was the first sales rep at HubSpot, and he took that company or rode that company out from 0 to 2.5 billion. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Boom, Carlos, my friend. I got to tell you, the briefing meeting and the preamble to this was a little bit longer than I expected, but super fun and happy to be talking to your audience about the modern sales process.
Well, hopefully I didn't exhaust you.
Not even close, right? You had a beer yesterday and I haven't had a beer in the United States for the last 10 years, right? So I'm ready to go. And you told me I could use the big energy, right? You want the big energy?
You could. Big energy is great.
Okay, your audience has to turn down the volume because I have like people I talk to on a regular basis. So they're like, okay, I'm talking to Tyre. I got to put my volume down to 2 or I blow out my eardrums, right? And this is just the way I roll. Like I vibrate at a different level. I got all this like big energy, which is great if you get it in short increments, but it's incredibly annoying if you live with me or you have to do it for hours and hours and hours. But excited to be on this podcast because as you know, I'm a growth guy. You don't really know my background, but you know some of it. You did good research before you invited me here. And I've been passionate about helping companies scale for 46 years. Right. And that is both sales and marketing, or what we now call growth in 2025. And it has changed incredibly since my last unicorn was HubSpot, as you know, started first salesperson, a 47-year-old guy going from a president of a software company to a essentially cold calling, which my friends thought I was crazy, right? But I had known Brian Halligan, the co-founder, in my fourth startup that got bought up by Microsoft, so I was excited to do it, and worked for this guy, Mark Roberge. Have you ever met Mark Roberge? I got to have him on the podcast.
It could be a threesome.
It stopped.
Oh, I still see you. You were still good.
Okay. Have you ever met Mark Roberge?
I have not.
Okay. So Mark wrote the Sales Acceleration Formula, and you should have him on your podcast because the 1% Edge is perfect for what he wrote. He was the vice president of sales for HubSpot from 0 to $100 million in 7 years, one of the fastest scale ever in B2B SaaS at that point in time. And so he took everything he learned. He was the greatest boss. I still work with him at Stage 2 Capital, and he's a boatload of fun and a super smart, best vice president of sales ever because he wasn't a vice president of sales. He was an engineer and looked back on sales as a math problem, as an algorithm. And that was amazing. And a lot of the things that I learned at HubSpot in that scale, right, apply to a modern sales process. Now, the most important thing I stole from Brian Halligan, who was the CEO. And Brian, probably around 2010, said, you know what, in the modern era, you have to be not a know-it-all, but you have to be a learn-it-all. And I'm like, ooh, I'm taking that line. And I always give him attribution because it's brilliant. Because everything has changed, right? Even in 2025, I just got off the phone with a handful of entrepreneurs today, growth folks who are in the trenches. And sometimes people think because I was at HubSpot for 17 years, I sat in the ivory office and the White Tower and all that. I was in the mud and the slime. And at Tyre Angel, we have 22 portfolio companies where we work on the engagement and growth process all the time. Right. So I actually make calls with our sales team. So I know exactly what I'm talking about. I know the differences. I know the positives and negatives. And hopefully I can give your audience a few tips about how to get 1% better every single day.
All right. So let's start here. We got, two white guys, older white guys talking about things are changing. So let's define, what do you mean by that? What do you mean things have changed in 2025, especially with the advent of AI?
Yeah, so it used to be salespeople were like relationship folks. I'd take you out to lunch. It was really the land of misfit toys, right? If you couldn't code or you couldn't write, they're like, okay, you can be a salesperson because all you had to do is take somebody golfing and they'd give you a deal. That's not even close in 2025. In 2025, number one, you have to be an AI assisted salesperson. And if you're not, you're way behind. That means you have to use ChatGPT or Claude, or I'm a big Gemini guy, or you HubSpot sales agent all the time. Like critically important because salespeople need to go deeper to pain. They have to move faster and they have to be prepared. In the first 25 years of my sales career, we could do open discovery. Oh, Carlos, tell me a little about your business. If you ever show up and say that, right, you're done in 7 minutes. I got to show up and say, Carlos, I see you have a podcast. I see you are on Spotify and Apple. It looks like you have several hundred people who are ongoing subscribers. You want to go from 100 to 1,000? And you'll be like, oh my goodness, where did you come from? And where I came from is I ran an agent on agent.ai, which is a free site founded by Dharmesh Shah, the co-founder of HubSpot. And I know all about you. And I know the questions I'm going to ask. I know the answers that you're likely to have. I know what I'm going to say when you say what you always say. And that way I'm a prepared salesperson for 2025. And it's so much harder because you have to be smart. You have to be thoughtful. You have to listen, which is sometimes a little hard for me. You got to be data oriented. You're a psychologist. You're an industry expert. You have to understand the product, your segment, and your value. And so it's much more complex than it was even in 2023 because the customer expectations are higher. Now everybody is put it into one of the AI engines. And they're finding everything about you. It used to be they went to my LinkedIn and saw my background and pedigree. Now they're like, what's this guy Tyre like? And they know a lot of background and a lot of experience. So I got to bring the A game. And so does every other salesperson. Because what you're going to see is the sales organization shrink. Million jobs will dissipate in the next 18 months because we need fewer people, but more highly skilled that follow a process, right, that leads to a greater conversion. So we're not wasting time. And what AI does for AI assisted growth person, both sales and marketing, is it takes away a lot of the guesswork and helps you become a preparer so that you're always prepared for every eventuality.
So Dan, I agree with you 100%. In fact, I would also say that this change has already started, before the big AI boom that we've all seen lately. Because you think about, as people got access to more and more information, they got optimized as well. They didn't have time to educate their sales reps on what's going on in their business stuff. The expectation was getting bigger and bigger. AI is just accelerated even more. In fact, in a good way, it's actually even given us a tool to even be able to actually, because I used to tell people, hey, they're better prepared. They have more information than ever. You need to be better prepared. You need to have more information than ever when you show up. What keeps you up at night? Horrible salespeople that waste my time.
Okay, but they're not going to exist in 6 months because if you cycle in, your expectation is so high. And when we started HubSpot in 2007, it was the inbound revolution. Right? The inbound revolution is exactly what you say. I've been lucky enough, I think I'm a little older than you, to live through 5 revolutions. The first was the PC revolution, which was my first unicorn that went from 100,000 to $1.4 billion in 9 years. What a ride. Second, revolution was the internet revolution. And then the smartphone revolution. And now we have the AI revolution. Right? Amazing, right? And this is the most impactful because it goes faster and quicker and you got to play. And if you're not playing, you're behind. I think there's enough out there that I'd be surprised if any modern salesperson isn't using AI. But in 2018, I wrote a book with a guy by the name of Todd Hockenberry. You should have Todd on this podcast as well. Todd is amazing, right? We met each other and he's like, you should write a book. I was talking about, it's called The Inbound Organization, published on Wiley. And he's like, I'm a little busy. I don't have time to write a book. He goes, I'll write it with you. And I'm like, have you ever written a book? He goes, no, but I write a lot. And he was the greatest co-author in the history of books because he was organized. He was thoughtful. And we outlined some things. There were 2 books. Actually, there were 4 books, Inbound PR, inbound customer service, inbound organization, which is ours, and inbound selling. And Mark Roberge and I wrote the forward for inbound selling, which was what we learned with the changes in the inbound revolution, right? And the first thing that we understood is the way to sell in 2020, 10, 27, 28, over the last 10 years, is you always help before you sell, right? And this is a major change, right? Because in the old days, we'd call up and qualify. You can't do that now, right? The semantics have changed considerably. If I call you up and say, Carlos, I want to help you get 1,000 new podcast listeners, you're interested. If I call you up and say, I got some podcast technology, you don't care. You'll never return my call. So the freemium model, and we help before we sell. And it's on every modern salesperson to understand how I can help you. If I don't know that you have a podcast, and I should know the exact number of episodes that you have, I know that you're on Spotify, I should know the statistics of where you're mostly listened to, your demographic, how long those if I don't know that before I even pick up the phone, you're never going to talk to me. If I do know that, then I separate myself from everybody else, right? So we always start with helping before we sell. Number two, it's data is critical. Right. And you got to look at all of the data. You have to be a data-driven salesperson. If you don't know the benchmark for that industry, if you don't know where the growth is, all of which you can put in AI, if you don't know the growth of the company in the particular area that they're going in, that before you even start has to be an essential part of a salesperson's toolkit. Number three, and we talked about this in the briefing meeting, the riches are in the niches. And we're going to talk a little bit about ideal customer profile. Right? Because, and this is the hardest thing for your audience to understand, because you have a lot of entrepreneurs who are in your audience, right? And they're always saying, no, I could help everybody. And maybe they can. But in 2025, you got to pick a stove, at least for your outbound reach. You could always be opportunistic, but you have to pick a swim lane that you're going to stay in, where you're going to dominate that swim lane. And people are like, why do I have to do that? I'm like, do you want to be successful in 2025? They're like, yes. I'm like, okay, if you spend all your time on 3 vertical markets, you're going to have some knowledge about 3. And they're like, yeah, I get that. If you spend it on 1, will you have more knowledge about that vertical market or less than if you have 3? They're like, obviously I have more. I'm like, exactly. And that's what you need in 2025. You need to be the de facto option in that particular stovepipe, so that you are the incredible default product or service, and then you pick another stovepipe. And that's the way we do it. That is very, very hard, but essential. And then the customer.
Right, hey, before you go on to the next one, because you did
I knew that was going to happen. I knew that was going to happen.
That ICP one's important, and I find it easy to talk about. And I love you to get your opinion when you're dealing in your investments and you're talking to founders, and they're so emotionally bought in. They just created the greatest thing since sliced bread. How do you get them to make the right bet, to pick the right ICP and stick to it? Not forever, but for at least a point in time where you're either seeing traction or you're changing.
Great question. Which would you prefer, net new customers or retaining current customers?
Both.
You can only pick one. Which more important?
They both feed each other. It's like chicken and the egg.
I know, but what is more important in 2025? That's a great sales
retaining in a SaaS model. Retaining customers.
Why?
Yes.
Why?
Because it's the model. I mean, it's harder to get a new customer than it is to keep one. And if I already got you in house and I can keep that revenue going, it not only shows that I'm providing service and helping you, but it also gives me tons of examples, stories, ways to grow my product within my current customer base. Okay. But I have no one to retain unless I get some new ones.
Okay. We're not talking about that. What you just answered is the right answer, because in 2025, right, the HubSpot flywheel puts customers at the center. And if you bring on a lot of customers that are not happy and leave, in 2007, when we started HubSpot, we were in beta for the first 1,000 customers, and there was a much lower bar of expectation. We're like, hey, we're in beta, so if the software didn't work. In 2025, if your software doesn't work or you have customers that leave, all right, they are not going to be quiet on the way out, right? So the reason why you say focused on that ideal customer profile is you may be able to help them, but the benchmark in 2025 is you have to provide at least 10x the value. right? This is a little controversial, but in 2007, if you provided 3x the value, in other words, if I paid $1,000 for your product and you gave me $3,000 of value back, then you'd continue to buy. And then it moved to 5 times what it is. And today in 2025, you got to give me 10 times the value. And that is harder over 3 different vertical markets. So what I want you to understand is that you can always be opportunistic. If somebody comes to you and says, I want your product, you vet it out. This is the hardest thing for a salesperson to do. I wrote about this in the Inbound Organization book. My good friend David Winehouse, right? He had an inbound lead. A company wanted to buy from him. He did the evaluation and he refused to sell to him. They're like, no, you're not ready. And they were pissed. They're like, no, we got our credit card here. He's like, I don't care. You're not going to have a good customer experience. I don't want to bring you on. And they're like, screw you. They went to a competitor. They bought the competitor. They're like, okay, Winehouse was right. They came back a year later, tracked him down and said, you were right. And that is the hardest thing for a salesperson to do. Hardest thing for an entrepreneur to do. But you got to think of every new customer as, number one, can I retain this person? Can I retain this company? Can I provide 10x the value that they're paying for me? Because that's the only way they retain. And that is a lot of hard work. And that's the table stakes for being a growth person in 2025. So as soon as you look at it from that angle, right? People, entrepreneurs say, no, I'll just work harder. That's not the process, right? You can always service people who come in, and you have to have the caveat, right? We're really focused on companies in the Northeast that are manufacturing, that have at least 100 employees, that want to grow 15% per year. That's the positioning statement we do. But if you've got 200 employees, I will make that a deviation, as long as you understand that this is where we really serve. And it's a little outside. Now, that's very, very hard, because there's the semantics involved. There's the being polite. You never want to piss off a potential prospect, but it's your only way of surviving. And if you define that, I've had plenty of times where I've like, no, we work with professional services organization that are $5 to $10 million. And people say, well, we're $12 million. Will you make an exception? And I'm like, maybe. Right? This is why we provide values to those people. If you're looking for this value, we can do it. If not, wait till we get there, or go to our competitor, and because you're going to have a better experience. And the people are like, okay, that's insane. You're turning me on to your competitor. I'm like, all I want is to help so that you get the right value. The credibility that I have goes up. Right, that person will talk to me, talk about that experience forever. And another thing that we wrote about in the Inbound Organization: your only sustainable value is your customer or your sales experience. This is another Halligan thing. He's like, everybody's product is pretty much the same. When you and I started our sales career, people bought your product because it had product features that no one else had. Right. Mm-hmm. Right? Didn't Clarify have product features that no one else had, and you had them for 3 years.
It was amazing.
That doesn't work in 2025. Everybody has the same product features as everybody else, right? And if they don't, they'll have it in 90 days. This is the AI age. So the only thing that differentiates you is to engage, is to show value, is to be willing to help, is to size up at the opportunity. And the way we define it in a modern sales process is identify. And that is new in the last, I'm going to say 8 years. That identify is you want to, the riches are in the niches. You find those ideal customers. That's who you do your outreach to. The next part is the hardest in the sales process. And everybody who's a salesperson or a sales manager, sales director, CRO, or if you're a CEO, the hardest job in your company is somebody getting on the phone and talking to Carlos or Dan Tyre. You have to have 8 attempts. And it has to you never call up and say, I'm Dan Tyre from Tyre Angel, because no one cares. No, you can't call up and say, I have this new technology. No one cares. You have to call up and say, Carlos, I work with podcast owners who are trying to triple their subscriber base and want to monetize their great content. Does that sound like you? And then you have to have 8 of those positioning statements. That's Danny Hertzberg, who worked for HubSpot for 10 years and then went to Sequoia, who wrote the classic blog article, How to Master the Connect Calls, on the HubSpot sales blog, right? Where it's all about you. And when I leave voicemails, and I still leave voicemails, right? 90% of the people I call in voicemail, the voicemail is full, please text me or whatever. I still, as long as I can, it's not a voicemail to call me back. It's a voicemail about you, where I know all the stuff, where on Saturday morning, I got 4 calls from the 602 number. What is it? And you're listening and you're like, okay, that guy's pretty good. Okay, that guy did his research. Okay, that's pretty funny. Okay, that guy knows what. And then you're not going to call me back. Then you're going to email me the 4 emails that I sent you when I did the outreach, left a voicemail, connected with you on LinkedIn. And in the modern world, the data says you have to have 8 attempts of each one so that I can get a senior executive like you. And so that is hard. And once I get you, first of all, this is Tyre wisdom. This is how you get 1% better every day. You always ask for a 15-minute meeting because most people will give it to you rather than a 30 or a 45-minute meeting. There are 3 questions that you ask. The first one is, okay, Carlos, I looked at your background. I know you're a bourbon drinker. Maybe not start with that. Carlos, I know that you worked at Clarify.
I shared too much.
Carlos, I know you've got a 25-year history in B2B software. I saw that you run a podcast, and I'm interested in having conversations with you. Tell me a little bit more about you. And when I say that, number one, what do you think? Tyre did his research, right? You know that when I'm outreaching to you, it's not like, how are you doing, Carlos? How's the weather? It's like, holy cow, this guy knows everything about me, not even more than LinkedIn. I'm like, you went to whatever school you went to. If I don't know the mascot, you're a jumbo? Oh my goodness. And if you're a jumbo, that's Tufts University. You'd be like, that's pretty good, Tyre. How do you know I was a jumbo? And it's just a one-step kind of preparation. And I'm like, all right, so tell me about you. And when I do a 15-minute meeting, it's always the first question. And why do I ask that question in a connect call? Tell me about you.
Trying to get some insights from them, get them to share, get them to talk about themselves.
All right. Number one, everybody likes to talk about themselves. Most people, unless you're an introvert. If you're an introvert, it's a slightly different approach. Number two, they always say, well, what do you want? What do you want to know? And I'm like, give me the 6-minute version. And then you just start talking about it. And somebody who's got a little bit of savvy and is putting it into ChatGPT are like, oh my goodness, you went to Tufts? Oh, my dad went to Tufts. And, oh, you just went back from Alaska? I have a video of the Bears of Alaska, something like that. And it turns into a conversation like you're at the bowling alley or in a barbecue or something like that. Now it's no longer and remember, you only have 15 minutes. So that goes on and the line, you can steal this line. It's in the public domain. Give me the 6-minute version. Whenever I say that to somebody, they always smile. The 6-minute version, because I only have 15 minutes. And then I have my positioning statement, right? I did my research. The reason I targeted you and I want to take 15 minutes of your time is because I know you are in this industry with this size company, with this problem, that this is the current state. And I help kind of companies get to this level of state. Do I have that right? And if I have it right, they'll be like, yeah, that's pretty good. If I don't have it right, they'll be like, no, that's not me. Then I go to my second positioning statement. I also work with manufacturing companies in the Boston area that have at least 200 employees and are only growing 15%, a little bit lower than the U.S. benchmark, and are worried about tariffs in North America. Do you ever feel like that? And they're like, yeah, I feel like that all the time. Then I stroke my chin. Let me see you stroke your chin, Carlos. Okay. And you say, okay, tell me more about that. And that is, number one, active listening. Number two, they start talking again. Number three, they're talking about their pain and problem, right? Now you have 5, they talk about it for 5 minutes. Sometimes it goes a little longer. At 12 minutes, you got to stop. You go, hold on. Just like supposedly you're supposed to stop me at 25 minutes. Good luck with that, Carlos. And you're going to say,
coming up.
Okay. You got 3 minutes. I mean, it's going to be tough. You're going to say, all right. Can we go a little longer, right? If they say yes, that's fine. If they say no, okay, there's something here, and I want to dig in a little bit deeper, right? I've done my research. I've done hours worth of research, and I think there are ways we may be able to help you, but I don't want to be assumptive. Can we either reschedule or go a little longer so I can dig in and really understand, right, the issue that you have? And in most cases, if you've been that successful, they've talked about themselves, they've agreed that you know their problem, they'll either extend it a little bit or they're like, get on my calendar tomorrow. Sometimes they'll say, get on my calendar in September. And I'll be like, okay, what are you doing tomorrow at 8:15? And they're like, what? I'm like, what time do you get in the office? I don't want to be the first call you have. I want you to get your coffee. I want to be the second call that you have, but I want to dig in, right? Because I want to understand a little bit more about that. And that's what's called a discovery call. So a successful connect call, which is incredibly hard in 2025, follows those 3 rules. And that's how you get 1% better every day. The discovery call, I was doing my research before this, and I have a famous blog article on the HubSpot sales blog. It's called 28 Questions to Ask on a Discovery Call During the Sales Process. And my friend Jilly Fratt, that's another person that you should have on this podcast. Jilly Frattiani, been at HubSpot for 20 years. She's like, Dan, the discovery call is the new close call. And I'm like, okay, I'm stealing that. She's like, as long as you give me attribution. And it's true. Because if you have a 45 minutes with somebody, you should do a lot of research to understand the questions you're going to ask, the answers that they're likely to give, the solutions of how you can tailor that. Because in that, if you're asking the right questions, they're going to say two things. Number one, no one else has asked me that question. Number two, they're going to be like, okay, that is exactly what we're looking to do. And if they don't say that, no one cares about your product demo. Everybody wants to show me a product demo. It better work, or I'm out of here. I'll go to one of the other 400 competitors doing the exact same thing, right? What I want to understand is, number one, do you get me or that the problem? Number two, can you solve it? And I'm assuming you can. Number three, you're going to give me the 10x the value of I pay, right? And then I'll be interested in understanding the next phase. So the 4 phases of a modern sales process is start with identify, move to connect, move to explore or discovery, and the final one is advise. And advise is where you introduce the product, you introduce the competitors because they all look at the same thing. You're like, okay, we want to make sure it's a good fit for you, right? And it's hard for your listeners to understand. Holy cow! But everybody in the AI age, they all know who your competitors are. They're all shopping the price, like comparisons and things like that. It's better to be overt, right? And you're like, this is why. What every customer wants is he wants to understand why you're the best selection, right? We call that competitive advantage. So, and whenever I'm doing pipeline reviews, I'm like, okay, at Mobile Force, what is your competitive advantage in this deal? If they can't answer that, they haven't done enough work. That's part of being a salesperson in the 21st century.
You did pretty good. You got through it all, and it's 26 minutes in.
Oh, baby, I got my whole bio. That takes 27 minutes itself. Come on, Carlos, let's go.
No, we got some of that bio early on. In fact, I was just cleverly thinking, all right, Dan, you're published, you're well known, you're a great speaker. For people that only know you through work, what might be one surprising thing that they would be surprised to know about?
Number one, I don't drink in the United States. I only drink in 5 foreign countries. If you can guess the 5 foreign countries on your podcast, I'll buy you a breakfast sandwich, but I don't think you can. We don't have time for that anyway. Number one, I've been married 36 years to the beautiful Amy Tyre, the smart, the successful, incredible, thoughtful, nice, kind life partner, and you should have her on the podcast. Number 3, 6 startups in 46 years, 2 unicorns. And my mantra is to do the most good for the universe. So the reason why you pinged me, because you heard me on another podcast, you're like, I'm like, I'm in. And why did I say that? Number one, you seem like a nice guy. Number two, you're trying to help all these salespeople in the modern world. Okay, there's nothing better than that. If we help one person, right, to understand the connect call, or to understand the discovery call, or to go and figure it out, that is a huge value. And you're doing it because as a sales trainer, you want to level up everybody's game, and that's incredible.
So let me ask you this, because I got into this deep conversation with another buddy recently. So obviously you like helping other people, right? You get some value out of that for yourself. But what is that? What drives you to help others? Because that's the same question he asked me, and I had to really think about it.
Amazing. So I've been of service to other folks. I stole that from my son, Eli Tyre. He went to the University of Chicago for 2 years, and then he said, Dad, I'm dropping out. And I'm like, what? He's like, I'm dropping out from the University of Chicago. I'm like, why? The first thing he said is, there's no smart people here, which I'm like, okay. Number 2, he goes, I don't care about money. All I want to do is the most good that I can for the universe. And what do you say when your kid says that? I'm like, okay, I got nothing. That's amazing, incredible. He goes, the world's on fire, and I've got to contribute in ways that are not economic. And so he dropped out and became an AI researcher, which is amazing, and is now traveling the country talking about AI safety and helping influence federal policy. Right? And
that's great.
When Eli's an amazing guy, you should have him on his podcast. I'm like, I'm going to fill you up.
You're going to be my new agent.
I know.
You're my new agent.
But what I realized, I wrote everything that I do is of service to others. Number one, Tyre Angel supports people of color, women, and underrepresented segments because it's harder for them to raise angel capital, and I want to change that. Right? The Tyre Mentorship Program, which you can find on dantyre.com, is all about anybody who needs a mentor. I fund the whole thing. I have 40 of my friends who are the best mentors in the world, and they'll come into somebody's life for 12 months, do 12 meetings, form a bond with that person, sometimes when they're in very difficult situations, so that they can be successful. I speak all over the world because I'm mildly entertaining from the stage. And because I enjoy it, and because I want to spread the message. Because in the AI age, with all robots and like AI stuff, it's still people to people, right? And I get so much value. Everybody's always complimenting me. I heard you here. How you did this. Oh my God. I'm like, all I'm doing is trying to navigate where I can help the most people, because it's uplifting. It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
fun. It's exciting. And then all the other people in my tribe, they come and like do the same thing. And there's so many great people in the modern world. There's so much negativity. There's so much blame. He did that. He did that. There's so much narcissism and all that craziness, right? I'm the exact opposite. I'm always going to tell you, Carlos, unless you have a twin brother. Do you have a twin brother?
I don't, unfortunately.
Okay, I'm going to say, Carlos, you're the best Carlos we have. You got your strengths, you got your weaknesses. Carlos, you lean into those strengths. You know what you like to do, right? The weaknesses, you either at your stage of the career, you either improve them or you just let them go, right? But I want to celebrate all the good stuff that's going on in the world. We have a Tyre mentorship update where 100 people come together 4 times a year. And all we do is compliment each other, help each other out. Everybody in the same boat. If I can make that little wrinkle, if I can tell people that's really the goal in life, is to make sure that you're of service to others, right? There's nothing more fun, more valuable, more impactful than that. And that's my legacy. And it's super fun. Oh my goodness. I'm going to Bogota in 2 weeks, right? Some ladies saw me in Eastern Europe. They're like, okay, we need that big energy on stage. I'm like, let's go, right? They're paying travel. I've never been to Bogota. Boom.
Beautiful city, beautiful country.
Amazing. All right. So that's why
if you need a translator, let me know.
Okay, I need 3 translators because I talk so quick. They'll be like, oh my goodness. I was just in Brazil. I was in Brazil. They're like, okay, 2 translators can't keep up with you. I had one in Portuguese, one in Spanish, and they're like, we can't even understand the English that you say. Insane. Come on, Tyre, calm it down.
Brazil's another great country. I've been there a bunch. I love it. All right. So what's your 1% edge? What's that one thing that you're working on these days to get a little bit better on, even still at this stage?
Okay, so remember, voicemails are different in 2025. Get really good at a modern day voicemail. And you're only going to leave it 1 every 10 calls, but I want it to be about the prospect. I want it to be slightly funny unless they're don't look like they'll laugh at your jokes. And I want to make sure that you leave 4 of them. So whenever they check their voicemail, they're like, who is this? And then they can go back and see their email. Number 2, 8 attempts to reach a prospect. You'll never get Dan Tyre on the first try. I get all these people who send me 8 emails, never call, never give me information, and it's a waste of all of our time, right? I want those attempts. If you call and leave like a message or something like that, you greatly accelerate your process. The one key to improve 1% every day is preparation over anything else. Open discovery or explore is no longer valid. So you have to understand the riches are in the niches. You have to understand everything about the vocabulary. I tell this story all the time because Todd Hockenberry, who is my co-author, he has 3 patents in lasers. And so when he works with manufacturers and people who are industrial companies. And when he walks into the room, like in 30 seconds, you know he's a manufacturer guy, right? He just has the presence, the vocabulary, the way to talk to other manufacturing people, and is amazing, right? And that's what people want to work with in the modern world.
Love it. All right. So Dan, if people want to hire you as a speaker or get to know you better, or maybe even reach out to you to maybe get some angel investment, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
It's pretty funny. I've maxed out my connections on LinkedIn. This is the most horrible thing. Somebody call Bill Gates and tell him Tyre needs more connections in LinkedIn, because now I have to go in and remove connections, which is the most horrible thing in the world, so I can accept somebody else. And then if I don't accept, I'm waiting on like 40. You can follow me, which happy to have that. But like the connection was a big thing for me because
Right.
I could. Yeah, but now I'm limited, and it's even worse. I have to go in, and even if I pay for a premium subscription, they're like, you're capped at 30. I'm like, why? I want to pay more so that I can connect with other people. They're like, you're screwed, Tyre. So, like, go to dantyre.com. There's lots of calls to action. There's lots of different places where you can drop your contact information. You can send me a message, I think, on LinkedIn in email, or dantyre at gmail.com. Right. Tyre Angel is there. The mentorship program is there. The office hours are there. That's my 4th side hustle, wherever city I am, I make myself available for entrepreneurs for 12 hours that day. Start at 8 o'clock in the morning, go all the way to 8 o'clock at night. Either sign up for 25 minutes or 50 minutes. You have to send me the 3 biggest problems you're having. And my job is to help you get unstuck. And I've been doing this for 10 years. I stole this from my buddy, Mike Volpe. Mike Volpe was the CMO of HubSpot the first 10 years, and he was amazing. And when he left, he's like, I can't meet with you, Tyre. I'm doing office hours. I'm like, what's office hours? It's like, I just help people who are stuck. I'm like, oh shit, that's the best thing ever. I want to do that. He's like, knock yourself out. So you go to Dan Tyre, Google Dan Tyre office hours, and you'll see. There's all my schedule, what city I'm going to be in, or do it virtual. You put in whatever you want, and you have access to it. And that's 2 things. Number 1, the way I can do more good for the universe. Number 2, the way I can vet out so I can stay focused on the programs and companies that I'm more actively involved.
Well, Dan, this has been immensely entertaining, very insightful. I mean, I wrote down some notes and some great tips. Hopefully I'll have you back again and we can dive into any one of these that you want to, because I think they're all a gold mine. And I really want to thank you for being on the pod and all you do for others. I think that's wonderful. I'm a big believer in giving back. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for others. And I'm trying to help others, along their journey. Not because
exactly.
So that's where someone asks you, so what do you get for? I like helping others. He goes, BS. He goes, I'll be honest, I feel good. Who doesn't want to feel good?
I know there's some 22-year-old out there who listens to your podcast like as soon as it comes out, because you're teaching them very important kind of things, right? And you're doing it and you're not charging them. That is the essence of life. Being of service to others uplifts you, it uplifts them, it uplifts everybody you talk to. And there are some people who are like, well, there's got to be a vested interest here. And there's not. You do it because you're good, because you enjoy talking about it. You want to meet other sales or growth leaders, right? And you're helping the next generation of salespeople figure it out more quickly, right? That's why I'm here, is more power to you. There are a million people like that. There's a few that don't have that same attitude, and they're going to get washed out. There are more good people in the world than ever before, right? We just got to get them all focused in the right direction, be of service to others, right? And everything will work.
Amen. All right, folks, that does it for this week's episode. If you enjoyed the conversation, got value out of Dan's comments, please comment back, reach out to him. We would greatly appreciate it. And I wouldn't mind if you give us a 5-star and follow us, and hopefully even become a subscriber. Until next time, I wish you nothing but the greatest success. Thank you again, Dan.
You're welcome. Bye.